I got into the trading business by starting out as a floor clerk for a firm called Goodbody and Company in December of 1959. And I was sent to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, where I got to meet a lot of people working for them as a clerk and got interested in trading. I became a member of NYMEX back in the days when their main contract was a potato contract. And we had a potato contract and we had an onion contract. And that is where I was able to afford a membership. And so I bought a membership and learned how to trade potatoes. And NYMEX then later, through the introduction of a banker and the introduction of a forward-looking chairman named Michael Marks at that time, introduced heating oil futures. And back then, heating oil was deliverable offshore on a barge in Amsterdam, so it was an international contract. And it was a great concept and was very quick to catch on, except that we found that delivery on a barge in Amsterdam was uninteresting to the market participants. And it was not until we were able to find a Texas delivery that was added to the contract that the Texas crude oil contract was born. At that time, we shared a trading floor with the COMEX, which was the commodity exchange, which traded actually gold, copper, silver, and believe it or not, they traded a gas derivative, which was interesting to Mid-America Pipeline. And so they asked somebody from the energy world on the floor to come over and help out with that, and I was chosen. And I decided that I did want to get involved, and as soon as I was able to afford a membership, I bought one in 1974, which I still have. Paid $42,000 for my membership on the COMEX. I paid $6,500 for my membership on NYMEX. Then, of course, I added additional memberships along the years. COMEX wanted to get into financial futures because it's a natural adjunct to precious metals, to gold especially. So we did want to have a currency contract, but we couldn't get the banks in New York interested. But the banks in Chicago were interested, and Leo Willamette, who was trying to help us get involved in New York, came and went, and the currency contracts were in Chicago, as you can imagine. And we tried a high-yield bond contract, and we found that the main components of the high-yield bond contract were owned by portfolios, state portfolios, and other retirement portfolios who had a buy and sell philosophy. So those bonds, once they were bought, were not available for delivery, and so the contract could not be completed. The biggest change I have seen actually was first decimalization on the American Stock Exchange. I was a member of the American Stock Exchange and saw decimalization. And that was a very big change. It changed the way markets were made by specialists. It changed the way public orders were executed. And after that, the second largest change was the technology revolution, which changed the custom and the culture of the futures industry. And that is what we're experiencing today. And in fact, some of our traders and ex-chairmen like Vincent Viola have built very successful businesses in high-frequency trading and using perhaps artificial intelligence, which we never heard of or dreamed of back then. Well, I learned a lot of interesting lessons along the course of my years. I learned how traders use buy stops and sell stops. I learned not to sell a Friday afternoon sell-off, and I learned not to buy a Monday morning spiked up opening. Anytime you have an event-driven rally or an event-driven sell-off in the futures markets, it's sure to find a retracement shortly thereafter. I was not bullish on gold over the course of a number of years during the so-called dot-com years. I always had some little gold in my portfolio or spoke to others about it, but it was a small amount because gold is a misunderstood asset, in my opinion, and people are using gold as a trading vehicle, as a hedge against events that are either political or securities moves related. Actually, gold, with a 5,000-year history, is really an inflation hedge over the long run. And until you experience serious inflation, gold is not really thought of as much as some other metals. Well, most of my best trades were always accidents. And sometimes accidents, as Napoleon said, give me the lucky generals, not the bright ones, turned out to be very good. And my other good trades were long-term trades that I was able to hold on to. My worst trades were usually short-term trades where I decided to trade an event-based or an accident-based or political-based event. I think there are probably lots of things I would do differently if I had the opportunity to do them again, but the moving finger does write, and having written moves on, and you can't undo what's been done. I probably would not have been in the World Trade Center in '93 or 9/11, and I was there, and my wife was in the World Trade Center in 9/11, and Pat Gambaro from the Coffee Sugar Exchange, who was in charge of the floors, ran around and said, "This is not a drill. We need you to leave immediately." And that saved my wife's life. And she and I met in the revolving doors looking for each other after the second plane hit, and we escaped together.